An innovative new school that hopes to save students left behind by the current system. Let's have a look. Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. I thought today I'd like to do something a bit different and talk about a school, a local school, just down in Woodridge. Now, Jason Caldwell, the wife of the principal of this school, shared this post on Facebook and it got me thinking. So I'll read it to you and we'll have a bit of a talk. So, I have a young man who is 11 and I found out once he is not going so well with his school. And so I said, come over and I'll help you with your reading. So reading, remember how important this is. He has a few times, and I saw him the other day with a big grin on his face and he said that he would come yesterday. And so he did, and we sat down in the backyard with a school reader, and it was so heartbreaking for a teacher to realize that someone isn't holding basic sight words in his head. Now, school readers are these simple little books that are designed to help children learn how to read, and you start them from, prep, even before, just to learn basic sight words. And these are words that you should just know by sight, like and the, and just get it locked into your memory. He tried sounding out and he so much wants to read that he was giving me everything he had. It was exhausting, making it through the first 2 pages, and so I said I would read the rest with him. You are doing so well. Do you feel good? He was so excited he echo-read behind me. I know that he will fail in the system no matter how enthusiastically I encourage him, but this time I had an idea. I've never been very happy to hear a kid if he's been suspended or expelled and get a yes. But this time, that was exactly what I wanted to hear. Well, I said I have a new school for you. You couldn't muck around. He shook his head. I want to learn, he replied. And this is in reference to the new school they're starting up. They've got a distance education school. And this is what my wife and I have enrolled our children in. So far, Mina's started. And we are huge fans of it. Because frankly, both of us have very little confidence in the contemporary education system. I think it's very out of date. And we can, work to our strengths to really get the best outcome for our kid. But why is this important? He's 11 and he's illiterate. He's functionally illiterate at 11 years old. Now, there's a few things that we need to be aware of. There is a risk of illiteracy, a crime risk. So this is a report, and I'll share this link below. This is from the United States. So the 2003 NAAL report, significantly different equals lower literacy performance by prison inmates compared to average free Americans. So there is a correlation, and I would argue that these bad habits, getting expelled and acting up because you just can't participate, you can't understand, you can't read, and people can't help you in a room full of 30 people. You need one-on-one time, and that just goes on. So in a 1995 study, Daniel Karpowicz and Mark Kenner reported in their research paper, Education as Crime Prevention, that inside our US prisons, 19% of adult inmates are illiterate, and up to 60% are functionally illiterate. In contrast to this, our national adult illiteracy rates stands at 4%, with up to 23% functionally illiterate. So you're thinking, oh, that's just American. That can't actually happen here in Australia. And I found this article, this paper, from research last century, in the 80s. And here's a little excerpt I want to get. I'll link to both of these. This is from the Australian Crime Prevention Council. That low literacy is a major characteristic of prisoner populations appears indisputable. For example, the functional illiteracy rate for New South Wales prisoners, according to a number of studies and references, has been judged to be as high as 30%. Overseas situations appear similar, if not worse. In the United States, prisoners, for example, functional illiteracy rates for prisoners have been found to be as high as 40, 50, and even 60%. So this was from 80s, 79, 84, 82. What's it here? 60 in 95. So it hasn't changed in that time period in 20 years. So there you go. we've got a problem. I could argue that there's some causation between these type of things. You'd have to, hopefully you'd agree with me. This is something that should be addressed. So this inspired me to go have a talk to Jason, the principal of the school, because they are building a new school, a day school. And this is a school where students who have fallen through the cracks of our education system, who can't, who are like this poor boy who are 11 and can't read, or who keep getting expelled and are the troublemakers, can get one-on-one teaching so they can, avoid this negative consequences. So I actually went out there. I got out of my room and I pretended I was one of these YouTube reporter people and visited him at his school. That's nearly finished. They're going to finish it in the next 2 weeks. Now, if you're a local here in Brisbane or even in Logan, and particularly if you're a tradie and you want to donate some time, I'll put the link in the description. If you're from overseas and you want to donate to the cause, I'll put a link to their website. They're not as polished with regards to ways that you can support them as other organizations, but their heart is in the right place. And I think it's just really inspiring and encouraging to see a good story, because good Lord, there's so many horrendous things in the news, and I'm still recovering from listening to Bill Shorten. So I will just transition now to my reporter in the field, which is me. So, hello everyone. Today I'm here with Jason Caldwell, the principal of the Faith Christian School of Distance Education, and my daughter's principal. And I thought I'd come and have a chat to him about, you can see here, we're in a new school that's just about to be finished. I think in the next few weeks, the final touches.
Has to be.
Has to be.
We've been told by the government if we don't get this finished within 3 weeks, they won't give us funding or won't help us out.
Oh, did you know?
They haven't put a cent in the building, but we need the funding per student to get the teaching support for them. So yeah.
Oh, it's looking fine. A bit of paint here. The boys are just sitting here having a smoker. And once they finish that, they'll knock it over this afternoon, won't they?
Oh, it's amazing what's happened here in just even the last week since we got the news that we will probably get approved, probably. And the last condition they want to know by an independent certifier that it's all finished. So yeah, we're sort of hanging on, needing approval to be able to charge ahead.
Yep.
But they're instead doing it the other way around, which is a good challenge. It's a good challenge. I love challenges.
So if you could let the audience know maybe a bit about your backstory, because what you're doing here isn't normal. Going, okay, you're waking up, so now I'll set up a school.
Let's set up a school for kids kicked out of school in Woodridge and Kingston. I guess that's probably a story that's a bit close to my own heart. I left school when I was 15, just before my 16th birthday, so not like brand new 15, but yeah, when I was 15, and I had a reading age of about an 8-year-old. So, and that's a state school 8-year-old, not necessarily a private school. Or our school's 8-year-olds. Yeah, our school's doing very well with reading. So yeah, I left school with very little academic capital, you'd call it, and probably more problems than you could shake a stick at. The joke I say is I was the biggest loser I ever met before the age of probably 16, 17, maybe even 18. But yeah, I learned to reading the Bible, oddly enough. Sounds a bit strange. Mainly just trying to disprove it to start with, because this must be just a fairy tale, surely. I don't want to get caught up in this rubbish. But I found out it was true. It's changed my life, and learning to read the Bible has helped me as well. But I only learnt to decode. I still struggle, even through my uni days when I did make it to Teachers College. And the only reason I ended up getting an education is I fell in love with a beautiful lady, Vanessa, who you're friends with, who's put you on to talking with me, I guess. I sort of don't have much time for any promotions here.
Well, this is the story that your wife shared, because she's a teacher as well. So she shared this story on Facebook just with a young boy who, 11 years old, could barely read. And how I think he's coming to the school, or will be enrolled in the school here. Yeah. And just what's an issue for me is, the link between illiteracy and then delinquent behaviour, and then that goes on to,
huge.
just then all of a sudden you're in jail 10 years later, and you're kind of a lost cause.
How many videos do you want?
Well,
I study this. This is my life. I look at the world around me, and because I don't come from the upper bell curve side of the street, I got a theory that the whole way we teach and do things is based off the bell curve. We need these high gifted talented people here. We need people like you in the down here, maybe a little bit above average, but you hold the place there. And then we've got people like Jason, poor Jason, tough home, violence, probably knocked on the head a few too many times. And I'm a placeholder for the clever people in the classroom, see? So the teacher likes to think they're bright and clever. They're all the successful ones usually. And I don't think they do this consciously. I think it's a subconscious bell curve ego trip where they need that lovely little Mary and Jemima in the classroom, teachers' pets. They're bright, they're talented, gifted, because I'm like them, Whereas you've got Jason now I'm the naughty boy, come back to haunt the system. And I think a lot of that is to do with gender issues. You mentioned before that that's an issue you have. Definitely primary school teachers, more of them are female. It's a hard industry for men for a lot of reasons. And that in itself has created its own culture. So even though we're now trying to degenderise education, I remember myself trying to get my girls not into dolls. I want them on skateboards. I've taken them up on my hang glider. I'm a hang glider pilot. I want my kids out there into things, and they do that. But what do you know? They seem to like dolls as well.
Yeah, like our little 3-year-old boy Frederick will pick up the doll.
Nothing wrong with that.
It'll become a gun. So he'll be running around.
So, we could argue this all sex role stereotype, gender, socialisation. We could argue that. But whether it's real or not, it is just a fact in the world. And I think we've got to look at it that from boys' point of view, when they look at a female teacher, she is different to them. They know that, even just physically. Okay, so we're already trying to find ways to change that. Taxpayers are even paying for it, but sorry, I shouldn't joke. But rightly and wrongly, the boy knows that that's a female and I'm male. And so everything through which we talk about as examples for learning or study or reading or writing, it all tends to be probably from that female focus a little bit, And even if it's just topics that provide context for learning. But then it's compounded by the fact that, like I say, most teachers, they haven't struggled before. They don't know what it's like for someone who finds it hard. And I guess that's how, for me, my wife's parents felt I was too thick to marry her. God bless them. They did me a favour. And they used the scripture from, unequally yoked, Now, I can still remember that park bench I was standing beside with my bike, because I used to ride everywhere, because the jobs I could get when I met my wife, you don't get paid a lot, $4.50 an hour or something, luxury. And so you can't afford a car. But I remember her saying to me, I know it's not true, unequally yoked, that's talking about spiritual. I know that, Jason, but it still wouldn't do you any harm to learn to read and write a little bit. I remember the words a little bit. So I did physics, English and maths at night school the next year.
Yep.
Cycling to each of these schools in the night time, working in the day in a warehouse. And I loved it. I was living the dream, And then later on, I ended up working an insurance job, and that was great, but I wasn't really in a place where I was really making a difference in the world. And I just prayed about it, and I believe God told me to pick up the phone, call Teachers College, you're going to be a teacher. And it was at a time in New Zealand when 1 out of 8 got in, and males, it was very hard to get in. It was definitely run by a very strong feministic sort of element. Which, probably I'm into feminism. I want my wife to challenge me, and I want us to work as a team. If she doesn't challenge me, I might make a wrong decision. 2 heads are always better than 1. She's saved me many, many times. But yeah, that whole sort of fight back from my life of oppression type thing was running the place at that time. And yet I got in. And never looked back. Learned in psychology that I'm not too thick to stay at school. I've actually got a powerful brain. We all have. We're all actually incredible geniuses. It's not just these people at the top end of the bell curve. They're just the ones with the right academic capital and experience. And a lot of that's to do with confidence and how the brain works around that.
Well, the education system we have now is a factory model. You have 30 people in a room, sit them all in front, and it's, it hasn't changed much since the last century, okay? We've got now, instead of a blackboard and we're writing on, scraping nails onto a little chalkboard, it's all computers, but the same approach hasn't updated that much.
No, we haven't kept up. And all technology's allowed us to do is to do that more efficiently. It's all the bean counters, so it's all about saving dollars. So even computers now, we're finding education at the moment, and how I know about this, I've been in education for 30 years now. Been principal of state and day schools and distance ed. But when I come into distance education about 18 years ago, God told me I'm not going to get the grade 4 class. You're going to be given the distance head role. I was sort of a bit tired of management roles, fighting this system. You're just wasting your time fighting this system, pushing bricks up a hill, in a wheelbarrow with a flat tyre. So I just wanted to get back to helping kids. And sure enough, the principal got me an after holiday, said, sorry to do a bait and switch on you, but would you consider taking the DE job instead of the year 4 job? We need someone to head it up. It's really in trouble.
So they wanted you in charge of a whole
Distance
division.
ed school, 400 kids.
And you just wanted to be in a room with
get back to basics
grade
and help
4
kids,
and just one-on-one.
Yeah. And I said, okay. I said, it's all right. God already told me in the Christmas holidays. I know that sounds fruity, but I believe I hear from God. Woohoo! And sure enough, I got that job. It was already a foregone conclusion. And I thought, I remember saying to myself, no offence to homeschooling buddies like this, but at the time I thought, what are you doing, Lord? Sending me to be in charge of a bunch of socially retarded people. Because that's what I thought homeschoolers were. And I've met one or two that are.
There are a few people that your parents, they don't have the social skills,
Look, if someone's got problems, their kids homeschooling, they end up with persona 2, I call it. And so we've got to watch that, and that's why it's really important that we're always working on ourselves and growing and developing ourselves and modelling that for our children. That's the greatest thing we teach our kids, is faith, heart for others, values, all those important old-fashioned things.
It's the traditional approach to schooling. This is how, for a majority of history, people would have taught their own children in the family units, unless you're on the upper echelons of society where you could get a tutor in.
So maybe the biblical model even of that community school, mums working together, that's what we're looking for now. So I come out of day school into distance ed, and I headed up 3 schools before the one that I'm principal of now, and they're double in size every year, phenomenal stuff, but I was really just running a cash crop for the day school. We were under a day school. It never really worked. I ended up resigning each time, like 3 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, and then I finally listened to God and we started our own school, which I believe He asked me to do after the first one went to Custard with 850 students.
How long have you been, that's the school?
This school now, we started 6 years ago, 7 years of operation. We started 8 years ago. It's a whole year lead up time, or probably even longer. We're just volunteering, and stuff like that to get off the ground. But 2.5 years without wages, basically, with 5 kids, so that's exciting. And it's just impossible to start a school these days. And they're sister schools of big corporates of schools. Yep. And they're purposely making it harder for that purpose.
So you and your wife started up your own school from nothing?
Well, I guess so. It sounds a bit egotistical even suggesting that. Put it this way, I went into the department, people I knew high up in the agencies there that should advise, and they basically said, I'm mad, look, we've got a school over here, they need a principal. I said, I already know that school, I've been approached by them already. Day school, it's not needed, Jason. What are you crazy? I said, look, I've got to do what I believe I'm meant to do. And 18 years ago when I took over that distance ed school, 11 years ago at that time, I believed we could do better. And that was the school that actually got Queensland homeschoolers funding. Before that, they didn't get funding. The government got us in the office and said, what can you do? For what dollars? We see that you're doing home visits, you're doing lessons, you're moving away from just this in-the-box ACE curriculum and getting onto real learning. And I said, look, it's the future, guys. And they go, no, we're on your side, we'll help you. We could fund that. Give us a spreadsheet of what you can do for what dollars. That came out of that first early days at Riverside when I was changing it there. And then they all got funding out of that, even if they still carried on with the ACE, something they couldn't differentiate. But they said we had to be part of a day school, but it just didn't work. So we had to start our own school. I believe 6 months before ahead of time, I knew that we had to start our own school. Started saved about 40 grand. And then it's nowhere near enough to start a school. You're dreaming. And then I'm sitting in church just to make it more exciting, and I believe God said, give the money you've got to that man in front of you in church. And he's a nice guy in that, but like this guy drives a car worth more than I would ever spend on a car. What am I doing? Sounds wild. Got to obey God. So I gave him the money. And so we actually literally started Faith Christian School with no money in the bank.
With nothing.
Yep, and it's a miracle story even how it got through accreditation.
So you did it hardcore mode.
I guess so. I don't know any other harder way to do it. But then we didn't get Commonwealth funding. because we're not under a day school. And I thought they'd change that because it's actually discrimination. I know
Yep.
what we provided at these 3 schools. We're doing better than that now. But because we don't already qualify for state distance ed, day school funding, then we don't qualify for distance ed funding. I'll say that again. So because we don't qualify for state day school funding students, then the Commonwealth says that they won't acknowledge us for DE funding.
Oh, well, they have to save their money. They make it complicated.
I actually think they're nervous of what a distance ed could do if it's not fitted under a day school.
Yes.
That's the real story. But I don't want to be too controversial here because the government has been kind to us since.
I think it's also the fact that it's an innovative approach to education.
Oh, it's a bit scary.
Yeah, and whenever you're dealing with a big bureaucracy like this, change is a slow thing with the government. From our own experience, I don't know if I told you why we decided to go to distance ed with homeschool. It's kind of we were more concerned with our son, with the future, with Frederick when he's going up. So our first daughter, Mina, she's just finished her first year, and we just got a report card back. Thank you very much.
She'll do great.
And the thing we quite enjoy is the flexibility that we have in it. And as a parent, you're really involved in education. It's no one else's responsibility.
You can't blame anyone when it goes wrong.
You can't. And you can also appreciate the learning opportunities that are around you all the time. So you've got to really think about it. When you go to the park, going, oh, fantastic, we'll turn that into a field trip and we'll look at all these trees and we'll do some biology here. And that's a real...
Learning in life's classroom, the classroom without walls, I call it.
Exactly.
And we got to get bigger in our thinking. But we've also got to get smaller as well, and narrow down on what really counts and what's going to get our kids a future and what's going to give them a stable base. And the family is so strategically important in that. And the whole world's trying to get kids away from their mums and away from their parents at younger ages. It's like backwards to what we stand for at our school.
Yesterday I listened to Bill Shorten's speech at the National Labour Conference.
Aren't you happy about that?
The fact that they put more childcare, even younger and younger and younger.
My wife doesn't get paid to look after our kids, you know what I mean? So look, it's a tough thing. It's very controversial. I can see that couples and people are under such pressure to own more houses, investment properties.
It becomes a trap.
Or just own a house. Yeah, Sydney, just own a house.
Yeah.
It's unreal. So, we've made lifestyle choices. You have. I mean, you could have your wife earning a fair bit of money. I could too. My wife's a registered teacher, but we're choosing to say our kids are worth more than that. And that's a big commitment. I think following on from that, the distance ed school, we got through accreditation, which is a major miracle in itself, that first year. And then we pretty much made to jump through hoops that I've never seen any of the previous schools I was head of have to jump through. That was exciting.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I feel we can't fight the government. We've got to win favour with Pharaoh. So we've tried to do the right thing and do that all the way along. We've had some big challenges. But, we're now 1,100 students.
1,100?
Yeah, 1,100 students this Christmas.
Wow.
I got 200 pre-enrolments for next year and more waiting for a callback. And ironically...
That is insane. Congratulations.
Well, thank the Lord. I'm just a servant, honestly.
He's putting you to work.
So, I've got a good team of people. We've got over 40 people now, and that's when you find out what it means to be a leader. It's not just having this get up and go yourself, this determination and drive. It's about coming alongside people. And sometimes you've got to work with what you got, because we're in the myth of professionality now, where you take someone and you performance appraise them, you percentage rate them, and you make them into this great, perfect product.
Don't get me started about
and
that.
I'm sorry, it's just absolute, excuse the language, but crapola.
Yep.
It doesn't work. And I even remember when I was back at a state school, and quite often you'd end up in a conversation in the staff room, even as a teacher, not necessarily principal, and the teacher would be going, I am not angry, I am a professional, and you'd like going, okay, sorry, I must have said something, or you're not listening to me, you're not listening. And what they really mean, and this is a little gender issue, I think, in how people work and think, but I have men that do this too, what they really mean is you're not agreeing with me.
Yep.
It's not that you're not listening. It's that you can't actually make the choice, because it's not the best choice for everyone. You've got to think of the choice for everyone. You've got to make the tough call. So in our school, it's about getting people together. We can't pay award rate. We're teachers in my school, or our school, should I say. They earn up to 20,000, 30,000 less than at the state school. So why are they there? How come I've had 4 or 5 of them say, Jason, I've been offered my dream job, humanities, science, or whatever, at some state school, and I turn it down. I've worked out this is my dream job.
I can tell you why. I know the secret. It's when the teachers come for the home visits, it's the families feeding them lunch. That's what it is. Yep, that's what it is.
Look, you joke about it, but it is something special. I've got families enrolled in this school where I taught the mothers in DE.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And now one of them, she's got 10 kids and they're enrolled with us, and another one's got 4 kids and they're coming through with us. And it's almost like a Forrest Gump movie as opposed to 16 Minutes. You know, that movie, it all happens in 16 minutes. So we're about the relationship that's long term, and we journey with families. You are going to be my friend for many, many years, as much as you want my friendship. But some people don't want that friendship, do they? But, you know, we have a commitment at our school, and, you know, I can remember taking out trailer loads of insulation stuff that I got from a recycling market to a family that live in a shed without insulation, or travelling up north to help with different things, or tutoring a student on a Saturday that was failing Maths A, and I know she's got the brain power, she's just got some missing links. So I'm there with her 5 hours. Make sure they pass it next time. I don't want you bothering them for 5. No, truly, you fill in the missing links, and kids can go anywhere. And I'm evidence of that with the reading. So you mentioned before, what is this school about here, this new building?
Well, yeah, so this isn't a distance ed school. We're in a physical, real building now.
See you, John. Hey, thanks for your help. Really appreciate it. Volunteers everywhere coming to help us at the moment.
Oh, so yeah, this is the home stretch.
So this building has a park on the outside. I was walking around this building 3 years ago praying, and God just kept bringing me back to this building. And I know that sounds nuts, so if you're into positive thinking, you can just think it's placebo effect if you like. But we saw miracles, and even buying this building, twice it fell through pretty much, and then it went through and we almost fell through
So the school's bought the building?
We own this building.
This is fantastic. And everything you're putting, all the investment you're putting in here in your infrastructure, that's a long-term...
It is, but we're not doing it with debt, see? So we have a debt like, I think the building's $850 all up, approximately, which is huge. Now it's zoned educational per square metre. You know what I'm talking about. That's like $2 million straight away. Council's got behind us. We've got amazing, beautiful park out there, and we've punched holes in windows in that park. We don't need that park to run. We've got this big gymnasium.
This is
for 30
school.
kids who have been kicked out of school in the Woodridge to Mars and sort of this lower socioeconomic area. And I actually grew up on the street a little bit in Hamilton for a while. I come from an interesting background. I used to hang out with some Cassie bros, you know, and share a lunch out of the bin or something, you know, together. I got some special memories of kids that doing it tough. And I did it tough myself as a kid. So this is like I'm able to double back now as well and do something good for this community that's going to make a difference. But we're taking that same individualised, personalised approach to education. What does that mean? The biggest success we have in distance ed is that if a boy is reading at grade 3 level or 2 level, we've got him on English where he is filling in that reading. Whereas the system now, because we've moved to computerised reporting systems, it's all about these assessment pieces. It's not about the journey anymore. Okay?
You can't even
Learning's
put
in the journey.
An individual comment in an assessment.
Oh, no. You've got to pick a comment for this girl or this boy from the database, buddy. And we can only choose one from the database if they've done what we said they had to do for each assessment. And this kid's grade 5, so we've used the CARA, the New Australian Curriculum, as an excuse to say, you're grade 5, you have to do these outcomes. And it's actually not true. It does actually say that children should be taught and learning at their instructional level. That means the level that they can achieve at, they can feel good about. Because with boys...
It's like a prescriptive outcome that people are just applying because it's easy, as opposed to a performance outcome where
computers are supposed to... sorry to cut you off, buddy. The computers are supposed to be working for us and helping them, but we're working for them. So in other words, we've got a system now that won't work unless we pre-prescribe curriculum to kids in maths in classrooms. Whereas once upon a time, I said this to a friend who works in state school. They said, oh no, differentiation, Jason. It's all about differentiation in Education Queensland now. And I imagine it's reflective of a lot of state education departments in the world, and even private schools. We've got 30 kids in a box and we're going to come in there. But differentiation is the new buzzword, you know.
Okay.
Now, usually when people have these buzzwords, it's in contradiction to something that people are working out that is wrong. It's really actually the opposite. So that's why it's the new buzzword. And I said, well, describe to me that differentiation for a kid in your class at grade 5 who can't read. Well, no, we get a teacher aid now and they get a bit of teacher aid time out of the class and some help with that reading. I said, buddy, do you remember when we trained back in NZ, differentiation in any classroom in primary in the country, good teacher meant you had 4 reading groups, all at different level books.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. So we're repackaging education to suit our bean counters, to suit what's easiest. And ironically too, the more money we throw at teachers, they're up to 100 grand now at the top end of the teaching salary scale. And they believe because of that, because they get paid that professional wage, they will now be respected. But I don't see that happening. I think they'll be respected when they have more autonomy and can personalise and do a better job in education, have lower class numbers, and then they'll get the respect. Yeah. And judging from my staff, they're going to enjoy their job better.
No,
I don't know.
That seems like common sense.
It does, but when have we known big movements
you're right.
government to use common sense?
That's not even my
That's
part.
a bit scary, that word.
Yeah.
How uncommon common sense is. So this is it's going to be separate to the distance here, but this building can also be used in holidays or for workshops in the evening, different other things, multi-purpose use. But pretty exciting as well that there's 1,000 square metres of carpet there, brand new, that was given to us.
Yes, I'll
amazing stuff.
I'll
You'll
put in
get to see this.
some footage that I've shown around now that we'll discuss it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you've got here. It's a fantastic facility. And you were saying you want to put a rock wall up there. There you go.
Yeah, 2 walls of rock climbing. I'm a bit into rock climbing the last 2 years, just try and keep myself sharp and fit and do something with my kids. And we did a fundraiser this year as well, raised 7 grand.
That could pay for the whole school if you just have the rock.
It's probably not big enough for a commercial venture, but we'll see what God does. I still don't know how we're going to do that because it'll all have to be signed off by engineers. And
Yep.
It's everything in building and education. It's all about middle people making money for doing nothing. I'm sorry, you're an architect, you'll understand what I mean.
Yeah.
It's all about people with the right sign-off permissions.
So if we have someone watching this overseas or who couldn't participate in your distance ed school or the school here, what advice would you give them if their child is struggling, or what encouragement would you give them?
Well, we're starting a studio next year. I've put together notes for kids that have problems with reading, and I got to make a video on this. My teachers, my coordinators, they all want videos on this and to learn it themselves. But what I find is these kids everything goes back to reading usually, okay? And these kids with reading, they're usually pushed up through the levels too fast and they lose fluency. They don't gain fluency. So they never move past what's called syllable decoding, or reading for decoding the word, and then for word recognition. And they're never moving on to reading groups of words for meaning, okay, which I call chunking, which is actually never really made it into education. That's from advanced reading skills. But these kids, they also, when they lack confidence, they have what's called autonomous eye regressions. That's not from teaching arena either. That's from psychology and some advanced reading stuff that I've studied 20 years ago. It's old hat to reading courses. But, so as they're reading along, their eyes are regressing. They don't trust themselves. Or they're stuck on the bit that looks easy, but it's because their peripheral vision has picked up a word in a head that's a hard word, and they're freaking out in advance.
Psychologically, they're not letting them, the brain is letting them go on.
So they're getting a mixed up message, and also their reading is becoming about being freaked out. It's not about reading at all.
Yep.
And so you have all these boys at the moment, and girls as well, being labelled auditory processing disorder. So what do we do when we face something that starts freaking us out? Our brain starts producing negative chemicals. We've got our own chemical factory, and it produces chemicals that make us feel dumb. You want to feel dumb? You think you're dumb? You think you can't do this? Righto, here's some chemicals to help you do it. The Bible says God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a love, power, and a sound mind. We've got a sound mind, but whatever good things are good and pure, think on these. So if we don't think on good and pure things, and we actually believe in lies about ourselves, which is I can't do it.
A self-fulfilling feedback loop. If you're constantly told that you can't do it, I'm stupid. It's like the even parents who criticise their children. It continues
dangerous, hurtful stuff,
on and on. And
look, we all can identify with that. And I'm a parent. I often joke with mums and say, look, I'm not perfect at this. I get it wrong too with my own kids, because what it is usually when we're reading with a kid that's struggling or helping with maths, is we actually start to get a bit anxious. And why we're usually anxious, not because we're nasty and want to give them a hard time, slap them around a bit, but it's emotionally, but it's because we fear failure. We fear that we're going to fail them or that they're going to fail. There's a lot of stake in that. And because we fear, then we ourselves as the helper get this negative chemical and we start oozing this anxiety. And I say to mums, kids stuck on a word and you're going, you're doing well. you know that word. You did see it on the last page 4 times. Sound it out. Now, all the kids hearing, and you wouldn't believe the number of times I say to kids this story, and the parents were listening going, and the kids going, Mum, this guy's telepathic. I've had kids say, how does he know what I'm thinking? Because I've been there, see? And the kid, all they're hearing is not, you know that word.
Yep.
Have a go, you know that word. All they're hearing is, are you thick? What is wrong with you? You should know this. And I said this to a boy, how probably the teacher aide when they were reading with you, that's really what you heard. What are you thick? And he said, forget the teacher aide, I feel the same when Mum reads with me, Dad reads with me, his sister reads with me. And I felt a little bit embarrassing as the teacher at that home.
He's pointing out everyone.
So we got to de-antagonise education. We've got to de-escalate that tension and get it back to having fun and enjoying a story. If your kid's struggling at reading, the best thing you can do is share a fun book like Danny the Champion of the World, good boys book, and Roald Dahl, that's a good plug for him. And then you've also got Rupert Murphy, who's The Butterfly Line. He did Warhorse, but Butterfly Line's even better. Simple book, just share it and enjoy it together. And say to the child, hey, if you follow the words with me, it's as powerful as you reading it yourself. You're seeing the word, you're getting the shape of it in your head, you're hearing the sound. And the truth of the matter is most of these kids know the first 85 sight words anyway, or 80 sight words, 45 sight words, which is 80% of what they'll need to read and write anyway. Well,
that was what was emphasised to us coming into this program, is the reading, sight words, focus on that.
Just 45, and yet they're trying to ram 200 words down a prep school kid's neck.
But when you just, I looked at it before coming here, I got some statistics for, if people who are in prison, there's 300% more likelihood of them being illiterate. Yep. And that was from 1989. That was all paper I found. Change. But if you think now, how hard it would be to live in our civilization with not being able to read, I couldn't even comprehend it. There's so many tasks you'd have trouble doing.
It's a little bit worse than that because look, we all know we got the phone now, I can do anything with my phone. And that is true. But there's something fundamentally neurological about reading that develops your language centre. So it's not just about the reading, it's about your ability to organise ideas and thoughts. Now we all know teachers that say, or people that say, oh, well that's all right, you're good at art, Jason. That's what they said to me at school, that was the only thing I could do. Art, congratulations, Jason.
Fantastic.
Ironically, since then I've learnt that I'm not a gifted and talented artist. I've just well practised at it and I got the right encouragement. And I am good at reading now, I am good at maths and those things. But I'm probably one of the hard workers too, There's a lot to be said for the hard workers amongst us. If it doesn't come too easy, sometimes you work harder at it, you appreciate it more as well. But the big thing there is that although we've got these tools and people think we don't need to read anymore, I do agree probably spelling is a bit redundant, that's the honest truth, but reading is something to do with the way we develop our brain historically and what it does for you, enable to organise your language and also put things down on paper. So the damage of reading is not just the reading, it's that you can't write and communicate in that form. It's like the same neural net structure, just used back the other way. Okay, the same computer circuit board for reading is used for writing. And then that all ties in with your linguistic ability as well.
I was actually talking to a parent in a private school, whose children goes to a private school, a local Catholic primary school. And they decided to implement this experiment where they said no readers for children up until this age. And it all worked fine, the children still developed the reading, it was fantastic. But the issue was, it was in a higher socioeconomic area. So all the parents would read with their kids at home, they wouldn't even care about
But that's why it worked.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the same as, everyone says, Finland, we've got to copy Finland,
Yep.
Because they don't even send their kids to school till this age. And all that means is they're getting more relationship with family and mums, And so what they don't tell you is that the mums over there read with their children. They're not in daycare. so much. I don't know. That could be changing there as well.
That's your number one tip, is reading to your children,
Have
sharing
fun.
books with them at a young age.
Reading. It's got to be about the meaning and the message. I say to mums all the time, I would never get anyone to, a kid to, hey, you went fishing yesterday with your dad, that's great, write a story about it. See you later, I'll be back soon. I would never do that. I'd say, hey, tell me about your story. Let's do a mind map together. Let's get these ideas. What did you say? Yeah. Silver like what? Silver like golden coin, like sparkly coins? Whatever, coins from the mint? I don't know. Obviously, I'm not that gifted and talented at similes and metaphors there at the moment. But the kids are, because they'll tell you ones that is like painting like a child, the Picasso of similes and metaphors. And it's theirs, they own it.
Well, you can be quite smart with giving them little tasks, like, oh, why don't you draw a picture of that and that? Oh, write some words there. And then all of a sudden, an hour later, they're exhausted and they've got all this work and you've tricked them into doing so much.
Exactly. And imagine this. Imagine if your little boy, like mine did once, comes to you and says, he's drawn a picture of the beach or something, he's been out. I was actually a bit lazy watching a movie with the older kids at the time. And I go, oh, yeah, that's great. And then he did some little symbols on it. And I said, he's only 4 years old, 3.5. I said, wow, look at that writing you've done. You're a writer. Look at that lovely T's and crosses and little O's. That's awesome, Michael. And then I went back to my movie like terrible dad. I didn't spend any more time with him. And then I looked back an hour later after the movie. He's done 2 pages of gobbledygook symbols, which is like early writing. I said, wow, that's amazing. Tell me about your story. Tell me what you've written. And that's great. And then I've said, do you want me to write some of that in adults code so that others can read it? And then later down the track, when they're having to go at writing, they've spelled a word wrong, you're not going, oh, you spelled that wrong. Oh, your writing's not very neat. Don't you know what a full stop is? Now, we all know with boys and more girls these days, if you do that, they'll say, stuff you. I can't win. I won't play. And that's how it is. So we've got to make them winners instead of crushing them. And having that approach will do that. I like your ideas here. You say the bird was beautiful. Tell me what was beautiful about the bird. Star one down the bottom page. Go and write it in there. Good on you, son. Or daughter, or whoever. Powerful stuff. But again, then you've got to look at the issue that no one has time in the classroom to conference anything anymore. They just mark it at the end with the rubrics, Well, where it's the journey where you learn.
I'm finding we're getting more, as parents, we're getting more time with the teachers in this distance education school than we ever would at any traditional school.
Oh, it shouldn't be that way. They get funded so much more highly than us. They get 4 to 10 times the funding.
So, if someone watching that would like to support your mission here that you're doing with this school or in general, I'll send them to your website and they'll find some, because you don't have a Patreon, although the Patreon's become an evil, or you don't have a PayPal yet for the school, but I'll push them to your website and they can get in touch if they want to support.
Look, if anyone wants to support, we're going to make a difference in the lives of 30 kids here. I've put 30 to 40 grand into this one myself. I put my first house, I put my wife out of Riverfront Mansion for setting up the distance ed school to start with. The bank owns that now. And guess what? It's all God's anyway.
Oh, she's a good wife. You can't take it with you.
She's a good wife, yeah. I'm talking about the house. I don't want to lose the wife. But the thing we've got to remember is that, when we're dead and gone, which I've only got 50 years left, I'm 50 now, and because of my diet, I plan to be here for 50 more. But I'm telling you, when we're gone, no one's going to care about what car we drove. No one's going to care about how many houses are a superannuation package. And my kids are going to be self-made enough that they don't need a big inheritance from me. They're going to be able to create wealth themselves, Same with yours. Your guys are firing on all cylinders. So
well, you want them to be entrepreneurs.
What can we do? Yeah, entrepreneurs. Yeah. So what can we do to make a difference in this world after we're gone? And that's all I'm doing now. I'm addicted to helping people. It's a great buzz. It's better than collecting. I collect gemstones, but collecting buzzes, helping people is way better than that. Seeing kids' faces. So if you want to help with this, you're welcome to make a donation. If you're local and you want to give some tradesman time, I've only got 3 weeks left for this one. But later on, keep an eye out. My long-term vision is to get all the Christian teachers from all over the world that are a bit disillusioned with education like I was to work together to create our own curriculum that we're going to give away for free to the whole world. And we're a long way down the track there now. It's starting to move towards that. So keep an eye on it, watch this space, and I believe we could do the same for unis as well, as controversial as that sounds.
Oh, no, it's when you look at how much you spend on a university, how much money goes in there.
Oh, come on, mate. We need those flash buildings, though, you know, where the architect needs a job, you know. It's like...
I'm about to do a series on videos on Australian Research Council grants, which are just utter rubbish.
Oh, look, I better keep out of it, eh?
That'll be another one. No, thank you very much, Jason. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. God bless you.
Yes,
and
and
take care out there and
see you, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'll talk to you next time.